Hello and welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
We are. That is the biggest hello of the season. It must mean it's not the first champion of the season because we had the Championship League, but first big winner of the season, the Shanghai Masters. We've greeted him in with a proper hello.
That's right, Phil. And it's Kyren Wilson who's becoming such a familiar winner, isn't he? Who has won the Shanghai Masters, beating Ali Carter 11-9 in the final. Just speaking for a little bit there before we came on air, saying what a good final it was. I mean, smashing, wasn't it? You know, I heard Dominic Dale, who I know we both got a lot of pleasure out of hearing in the last few days, and we always do. He was sort of saying at one stage during commentary, it was kind of an unusual final, the way they kept winning sort of two frames, two frames, two. It wasn't 1-1-1. It was funny sort of patterns. But I mean, Kyron was sort of, for lots of it, had his nose in front. Ali kept sort of fighting back. And, it's one of those where it's a bit of a shame there had to be a loser. I mean, Kyron finished really strongly in that way. He often does now. I noticed he made a comment. I've got some quotes in a while about how he didn't want it to go to a decider because Ali's been so strong in them this week. Ali, of course, the king of the comeback. But I thought the funny thing about Kyron saying that was he's so proficient towards the end of matches himself now. He seems to be brilliant at winning these tight ones. I mean, think about Barry that comes to mind in Berlin last season. Three or four more other recent. I mean, he's lost a couple as well, but when those big ones, those multi-session one goes deep, I just think he's a formidable winner. What a way to start the season. He's saying how gutted he was by the World Championship, perhaps more than we even realised. But well, when winning it is the biggest thing. Never mind what's to come. This is it, winning it now. But early August, what a warning sign to his rivals.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone thought he was going to like fall away or anything, but it's a different challenge coming back after that amazing season that ended so disappointingly. And he's just sort of cast aside any doubts that he might struggle in this new world back as non-world champion. The way he did it as well, and we'll get to it, is early round, just squeak past C, but to beat Ronnie and Zhao and then to win the
Mm.
final, it's in such a good final. Yeah, it's really just stamping his authority again, which he's done continually over a number of months now, as one of the very elite band. We talk about sort of top players, but there is often just like an elite of the elite at times, the top three or four in the world, and he's just undoubtedly in that. So yeah, very impressive. And yeah, just as you said, just a brilliant final. It was just so nip and tuck all the way through. Anytime we thought someone might sort of fire away, usually Kyron, Ali brought him back. And yeah, I'm not a big destiny believer or anything like that, but it just seemed like something was going his way this tournament, the way he got in it, and he kept coming back. It felt like something, he would have had the belief that it was going to happen again because he always does. But after what happened, no, so far this week, no doubt he would have thought my name's on this trophy. So fair play to Kyron for keeping him away from that. Took some doing. Um, and that I feel like that red at the end of it, 'cause
Mm.
he messed a couple of chances up in that what turned out to be the final frame. He looked like he could have won it twice before. So just a little wobble from him. But then to come back and then just knock in so quite slowly that long red from distance. Oh, I thought it was so good. And then cleared up from there. Yeah, brilliant, very impressive. But from both, that's why it was such a good final. They both turned up, both played great. Had to be a winner. Karen was it.
Yeah, you couldn't sum up that better, Phil. I mean, you need both to turn up. That sounds obvious, but unless they're both really bad and you get a scrappy final, that's entertaining in a different kind of way. Sort of, but yeah, just it really delivered, didn't it? You're right about that red and the testing Brown to follow. That's going to
Mm.
be, yeah, more times than not you'd expect him to get it, and he did. But it was a testy little one with a cue ball on the near to the cushion, virtually tight on the cushion. So they're so nerveless, these guys. That's what sets these players apart now. And the other thing I say so often now, it, they just go for everything. They never really shy away. Very rarely do I think someone with an approach of I'll guard this or I'll just maintain this. Might sometimes, but not really. You have to go all out. And again, that's so admirable that these modern players just do that at second nature now. So I really enjoyed it. And Yeah, it looked like it might be a decider at one stage. They kind of had those leads 5-3, 7-5, 9-7. Ali kept sort of fighting back. Good 86, actually, because Ali, he got in, that when it was 9-9, those next two frames are both really interesting. Kyren got in very first in the next one, and Ali had a chance. I thought he might get it, actually. Took a long time over it, but missed it. Very annoyed to miss it, he was. And then Kyren, good 86, very good to win that frame. The next one, yeah, it could have been Ali's. So that red at the end was so crucial. And, big come on, eh? Yeah,
Yeah.
he said he held it in, but a big come on. And that if he doubted for a minute what it means, the old Steve Davis thing, play like you mean it means nothing when it means everything. But you can't deny those moments. And he does say here, got some quotes, Phil. It was a huge kick in the teeth going out in the first round of the World Championship. I don't have that world title tag anymore. What a difference from a year before. I mean, everyone's different. I don't mean to criticise Luca, but you got the feeling Luca was delighted to get the thing off his back, whereas Kyren, he would have wanted it. He would wants it all the time. He wanted it again. He says it is important to kick off the season in good fashion. It sets me up nicely for what is to come. I've had to wait a long time to get going again in professional competition, but this was definitely worth the wait. I knew I had to take out that clearance at the end. Fatigue was starting to slip in. I didn't want to face Ali in a final frame because his success rate in deciders this week has been fantastic. He's a great champion and made it really difficult all day long. I should say, of course, you've spoken to Ali, haven't you, in a really nice interview, and he's such a sort of redoubtable character. Marmite, you can never deny that. And I'll always be in the camp that says that fighting Ali Carter is a formidable sight. I don't always agree with some of the things he says, don't get me wrong, and all that. I know people, he can be a rascal at times, but listen, can't we all? I mean, I just think as a player, my God, he's so gutsy and he's so fiercely determined. And I mean, I suppose a lot could say this, but he really could say it. If three or four matches in the career of Ali Carter had just gone the other way, we'd be looking at a very different career. That Masters final that somehow got away from him. But again, I say somehow got away. It was brilliant from Stuart Bingham that night. And it was sort of brilliant from Kyren here. I don't think Ali can really go away and think, oh, why did I get that one? Why did I get this wrong? He just got beaten by a very, very strong player on the day. And got to say, let's go on to Ali now, actually, for and say, late entrant. I did suggest in the office a couple of days ago, but if he wins it, let's dust out, let's blow off the cobwebs, Phil, of one of those famous old pieces we always do. Late entrants that win stuff.
Yeah.
And by law, of course, you have to start with Denmark players on the beach and
Mm.
winning the Euros. But there are others too. Thought he might be one of those. 5-2 against Mark Williams was 6-5. Xiao Gudong next, wasn't it? 5-2, 6-5. 8-6 down against Mark Selby. He did a Selby on Selby, 1-10-8. And else he came so close in the final. You said it seemed like they won the trophy. I mean, those three comebacks are, I mean, that is quite something. One or two of those, but three in a row, you've got to say hats off to him. It's a shame it didn't end with silverware in a way, because, if anyone sort of merited it this week, it kind of was him in a way, eh?
Yeah, I mean those two, the two 5-2s, having to win four on the spin against two top players playing well is some ask. So to do that twice, then 8-6 doesn't sound so mad, but because it's against Mark Selby, who looked really good this tournament, that's also mad. He did
Yeah.
sort of fall away. I mean, it does usually take some help from the player in the front. I think Selby did sort of wilt a bit there. Although I'd say Williams in the first one, and he tweeted this as well, just didn't do anything wrong. I think he went into the pack to win that final frame, didn't land on anything,
Mm.
and then Carter just romped to victory from there. But yeah, no, great stuff. And that's I've always found Carter a bit of a quandary in terms of mentality because he's like a great fighter and scrapper, and everyone knows that. But also, he sort of gets on his own case and gets wound up, and then will go missing for a few balls. So I've always found it difficult to know whether his mentality is a strength or a weakness. But it's sort of both. Just when, but he showed the good side in spades this tournament. Not too many people would have fought back from those positions three times in a row. Um, and yeah, and even in the final, he didn't get it done, but he kept in touch. As you said before, Kyren kept being ahead, and Ali kept scrapping back. So, yeah, it was definitely the good side of Ali Carter this week. And it's very impressive. Like, he's because he hasn't won one of the big ones. He's won plenty, but he's not one of the big ones. He's just sort of seems that just that rung below the very best players, isn't he? Um, but it's still an absolutely fantastic player. That piece I did with him, and I find him just great to talk. I love interviewing him. I probably wouldn't
Likewise.
agree with too much of his opinions in real life.
No,
It doesn't mean I
no.
can't get on with him, and can't enjoy what some of his answers to things. But he was pointing out that he's been in the top 20 for basically all his career. Only health reasons have sort of seen him slip out of that at times. Um, and sometimes we get too obsessed with the very, very best, but his career, almost every snooker player ever to go near a table would swap his for Ali Carter's. Just an absolutely fabulous player. So yeah, nice to see him proving that once again. Even if he didn't quite get there in the final.
I thought those quotes stood out for me in your piece, actually. And look, when you speak to these guys as we do, year in, year out, they'll sometimes, will differ just depending on how they think in that particular day or that period in their life. I have heard him say, at times there will be a bit of frustrations that players that maybe a similar sort of ilk than him and maybe in the same bracket in talent and quality of one of the big ones and maybe he hasn't. But then, as he rightly says, I mean, with his health problems, I mean, in some ways you could easily flip it round totally more towards what he's hinting around now and saying, how's he done so well?
Mm.
He's just been there and thereabouts, two world finals, a Masters final. I mean, yes,
Two
he had
Masters finals.
what the other one, of course it was, not the Bingham one as well, the Ronnie one, of course it was, yeah. And he could have won that one, couldn't he? He was ahead,
Yeah.
yeah, two Masters finals, absolutely right. And what was struggling with my brain then, thinking also, you say he hasn't won one of the very big ones, but we sort of call the German one of the very big ones on some levels. And has he won that twice? I think he might have
Mm.
done. Bit of a twice theme going on here, Phil. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I feel gutted in a way for him that, it's those, think about it, four Triple Crowns and not to win it. But again, I think as we said, yeah, now I got it in my head. Of course, it's three of them against Ronnie, so that's unlucky.
It's
And
tough. Yeah.
I mean the Bingham one was more equal, but I mean Ronnie's been in so many finals, but still, you wouldn't have if you had said you're in four and you got Ronnie in three. That feels like you really had a hard run. But listen, that's the way it goes. They say top career, and he's still sort of going very strong now. There was a time, in fact, I did an interview with him maybe a year or 2 years ago. Was it now? When he was saying about how he came relatively close a few seasons ago to jacking it all in. He didn't think he quite had it. And one of his mates, someone might have been one of the people that I have to look it up. Someone involved in the flying business with him was one of those. One of his good friends, I think. But from that world, was like, do you really want to stop? You feel like he's got a lot to give, really. And I think he sort of developed his own sort of modern way of what a lot of players do of a certain age. They're never going to practice 8, 9 hours a day
Yeah.
anymore, but they're going to do a certain amount, the right amount for them. And he kind of got the package at work for him. And he had that time with Chris Henry. And he's got, he's just still a competitor. That's underselling it. Still a competitor. Still someone that can win stuff and getting finals is great to see. But of course, the big line is that Kyren, world champion, now 2 seasons ago, having not had a great world champion season that season, then those four last season, and now, of course, starting like this, I mean, he could really make hay again, And what I'm thinking is, he's one of those now that you think he can win any tournament, and I think there's
Mm.
not that many like that, are there? I'd say Mark Allen is just about like that. I know he's gone off a bit. Neil has gone off a bit, but he's sort of just about there. Selby clearly is. Ronnie is really. Judd Trump is. Um, but there are only really about 6, 7, or 8, maybe, aren't there, that like that? And there are lots of people in the game that you think they might win it if they have a good week, but you can't. I think Kyren now, and that is an invaluable thing to have, isn't it? To literally think any week he enters a tournament, he's right up there to win it. And that's a hell of a bracket to be in.
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying about sort of the elite of the elite. That's just a real handful of people where, there's plenty of people you wouldn't be surprised to win a tournament. Be like, oh, yeah, as you say, they must have had a good week. Whereas, I think Judd Trump suffers with this a lot. He wins so much that it's just like when he wins, it just raises so few eyebrows that he gets no credit for it. It's just like, yeah, Judd Trump won, of course he did. and Kyron's
Yeah.
going to get himself in that bracket, which he wasn't. It's so quickly that he's turned that around. Like when he played Zhao, I was thinking how quickly that has gone from time when Kyron was just doing not very much at all by his standards. The season he won the World Championship, he hadn't got in the Player Series events, the ITV series. That's how sort of disappointing that season had
Wow.
been.
Yeah.
So before when they played the other day in the semi, 18 months before that, Wilson was just having one of the less good seasons of his career. Zhao was banned. Now they're playing 18 months later as the current and previous world champion and two of the very best players in the world, undoubtedly. So it's amazing how things can change. And yeah, Kyren has firmly slotted himself in that very top bracket. And there's a real genuine chance. He's only 33, and with the landscape of what snooker's like now, Kyren Wilson could quite quickly and for a while, and then carry on for a while, build up a career to be one of the all-time greats if he keeps going anything like what he's doing at the minute. Which is just something that did not seem likely at all not very long ago. We all knew he was a very good player, but the idea that he could go down as a great of the game, one of the top greats of the game, I mean, seemed fanciful. But it's not out of the question now.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. There was a time when I would have, yeah, maybe doubted that he reached those levels. But you're right; those doubts are beginning to dispel a bit. It'll be certainly be fascinating to see what he does in the years to come. And well, let's maybe go back and see some of the results then, shall we, Phil? And go back to round one and go to a John Craven. I can't believe Dave Hendon gave me that one for free, a news round. I mean, what? Why I didn't think of that 5 years in before? Absolutely incredible. Well, Barry Hawkins had a win against Wu Yiza, 6-4, 500th career century for Hawkins during that match. Chris Wakelin beat Xiao Jinhao 6-3. Zhang under 6-1, Sidron 5. Really good match there. Zhang with a 79 in the decider to win it. Sean Murphy 6, Han Fuyan 0. Si He 6, Wang Jinbao 4. Breaks 110, 118, 82, and 83 from C. Neil Robertson beat Pang Jiangsu 6-2. Ali Carter beat Q Lei 6-1. And Zhao Gudong beat Lei Pei Fan 6-3. Loads of big stuff and great stuff happened in the next round, round two. Mark Selby 6, Sean Murphy 0. I think you pointed out Mark not being paid by the hour, Phil, as you put it there. He absolutely sauntered to that one. Kyren Wilson 6, Si He 5. Now, there were 6 centuries in that match. There could have been a record 7. But I still haven't seen this actually. But Kyren was on 97. I think he did a no-look job, didn't he?
Yeah.
Almost one of those sort of trick shots. And but there we go. So 6 in the match. Judd Trump at 6, Neil Robertson 2, 3 centuries and 3 half centuries from Trump. Ding Junhui 6, Zhang Anda 5, maximum 147 from Zhang, the fourth of his pro career. But Ding won the match for the 68 in the decider. And I was thinking, while preparing for this a bit, I think a correspondent, I think in Dave's pod, didn't it, did once do a proper investigation and culmination and collection of results and said, no, by quite a distance, the 147 maker wins the match. And listen, I have no doubt that that's true. But it's so funny that it just seems to be that they so often lose the match. It just seems to be time and time again. But it must just be the ones when this happens sticks in more than the winners. It must be like that. But again, it was Ding that won the match, and Ali Carter. Well, that was a cracker. I mentioned it against Mark Williams, and yeah, I didn't see it actually, but so I didn't know if Mark did nothing wrong. But the score suggests he didn't do much wrong. I mean, 93, 78. 87 and 132. What a way to win it for Ali. Xiao Gudong beat John Higgins 6-4. Xiao Xintong beat Chris Wakelin 6-2. Ronnie O'Sullivan 6, Barry Hawkins 5. 67 in the decider from Ronnie there. That's after Barry had a really good couple of frames to get back from 5-3 to 5-5. Ronnie said it was the best he played since winning the world title in 22. I mean, I wasn't convinced about that. I mean, it's for him. It's for the greatest snooker player of all time to tell us when he's playing well and me not to challenge it in a way. But just in terms of an observer, I sort of thought, well, he probably has. He's probably forgotten something there. But much bigger picture than that suggests to me he's in a better place, eh?
Yeah, definitely. It's what he's feeling like, isn't it? Because that season where he won 5 titles, he never stopped saying how bad he's playing. And I don't think people thought he was at his best, but he was still beating everyone. So it was hard to believe him. But it's really how he feels, isn't it? And he made a lot of good breaks in that game. So that's a good start. I didn't see all that game, but I saw the end. And Barry did actually have a good chance to win that decider. He would have been frustrated to take Ronnie all the way to the last frame and then just spurn that chance. But he played well as well. And Ronnie did look good. It was encouraging him, just to see him playing again, isn't it? And I don't
Yeah.
think he was ever going to miss the Shanghai Masters. He absolutely loves it, but he did look good, and as you say, was talking a good game as well, which is half the battle, I think, for Ronnie. Yeah, just going back to that first round because we get all those wild cards, and it's hard to know what to expect because we don't follow the CBSA tour too closely. I'll happily admit. But the guy who Chris Wakelin played, Zhao Jinhao, it was the standout one. He's only 17. We saw him last year actually. He beat Zhang Anda, and he looked really good again. So he's one to look out for, Zhao Jinhao. He's only just turned 17 as well in June. So but another young Chinese star with a bright future there.
You must be joking.
Uh,
He's old now. We've got a 14-year-old. He's getting on a bit. I'm joking.
But yeah, no, it was impressive. And then yeah, what else in there? Zhao Guidong and John Higgins have been having their own sort of personal scrap for a while now. They played each other in, I think, all three of those ITV events last season because
Oh yeah,
it was a bit messed up with it because they were so close together. People just kept
yeah.
playing each other. I think John won all three, but two of them were very close. I think two might have been two deciders. One was at Crucible. So fair play to Zhao to finally get his own, his own back there. I think John went 2-0 up, and it looked like another bad day for Zhao, but he played really well. I think he made 3 tons. So he got one back in the rivalry we didn't know we needed. The Zhao Guidong versus John Higgins epic set of matches.
I don't think I do need it really, but harsh. A little bit, tiny bit of he needs it. On to the quarterfinals then. Mark Selby 6, Judd Trump 4. Well, Trump made 3 centuries, but Selby got the win, break of 76 and the decider from him. Ali Carter 6, Zhao Gudong 5. That's, yeah, again, the 5-2 thing. Crazy. 72, 92, and 87 to levels. They're good breaks from behind. And then he won the decider. Yeah, a lot of us are, talking up and really hoping the best from Xiao Xing Tong, Ding Junhui, but it was one-sided. Ding didn't really show up, and, Xiao has, he nearly always does. Well, comes from one when he did quite so much, but he nearly always does. And 3 centuries and 2 half centuries and the world champion to get a 6-1 win. And then Kyren Wilson 6, Ronnie O'Sullivan 3. Well, that's again sprinting for the line from Kyren, 91, 83, and 109 from him. That was 3-3 at one stage, but he claimed a 6-3 win. And in the semi-finals, Ali Carter 10, Mark Selby 8. Selby 8-6 up, as we mentioned earlier. And in the balls, he missed one, didn't he, in that frame? He was on 40 odd. Carter won that, and then the match. So again, breaks from a losing position. Breaks of 66, 83, 62, and 79. And a bit of a curious one, wasn't it, Kyren Wilson, Zhao Xingtong? I mean, Zhao with 2 centuries and 2 half centuries to go 5-4 up. I think most of us would have put any sort of money on it being at least a sort of 10-8. It's going to go nip and tuck all the way these two are playing. You're right, the 2 last world champions. But it was a bit of a damp squib in a way. Zhao just missed lots of chances, didn't play that well in that second session. And Kyren won 6 frames in a row for a 10-5 win. It's a bit of a curious one there. So you can wrap up the last, not to say I'm sure they feel about the last 8 and the last 4. Just again, that, remarkable stuff really from Ali. And the Selby one is interesting, actually. I meant to say it when you mentioned it earlier and forgot, but it's coming in my mind again now. I don't want to reach too much. He's still an unbelievable player. But that thing you said about him not falling away a bit, I think that happens a bit more in matches now. It happened a couple of times last season. I thought, Mark just really fell away. And of course, we're always sort of saying brinkmanship, and all this sort of thing. But it's happened a couple of times to him. Not a massive deal, but maybe it's just an age thing. I don't know. Or it's just players go in spells like this. But I noticed that utterly indefatigable thing. It's slightly slipped very slightly from his snooker maybe in the last season or two. Oh, I'm making it up.
No, I mean, I haven't got any sort of stats to back this up. I agree with that feeling. There's certainly points of matches where you think, "Oh, this is Selby all over," and actually now it's not Selby all over. I don't think it's not never Selby. He's not like a weak player at all. But yeah, the bits where you think, oh, his opponent's in real trouble here. The opponent's in not quite as much trouble as you may have once thought against Mark Selby, unless he's really firing. He's still at his best. He's still good enough to beat anyone, literally anyone else at any point. But he's just not always at that best all the time. Yeah, the other semi final was weird. I watched a lot of that. Amazing first session. They're both great. Zhao was great, and then Zhao sort of bit encouragingly for the rest of the field because he seemed a bit inhuman, hasn't he? Recently, he won so
Mm,
many matches. There's this feeling that he may just become the new completely dominant force.
mm,
Um, some people actually tweeted me telling me saying that Kyren had no chance in this match,
mm.
which I thought was a crazy thing to say before it started and was proved so. Look, he could easily have lost to Zhao. I'm not saying that, but there's no way he had no chance to beat him. That's nuts. And Zhao really just completely faltered in that second session. I don't know if he was tired, or the pressure got to him. Something happened. It happens to everyone. I'm not having a go at Zhao's in tongue, but he did have a bad sesh, and Kyren sort of romped to victory there. So yeah, it's interesting. And as much as it was great for Kyren to win early, as he did last year as world champion, Zhao will want to win one as soon as Poss as world champion to get that pressure off. Again, he's had one tournament, so that's I'm not putting the pressure on him just yet. And he got to the semi-finals. But yeah, he will want to tick that off. And then earlier, I watched a fair bit of that Judd Selby quarterfinal because why wouldn't you? I mean, lovely stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and it's weird. You look at the frame scores. Judd made 3 tons and 2 half centuries, and only lost 6-4 to Mark Selby. So it looks pretty good on paper, doesn't it? But it was a weird performance. He missed a lot of easy balls when he was in a fair few times, and it was just odd because he really made short work of Neil Robertson in the previous round. It was just an odd one from Judd. I thought when he thrashed Neil like he did and he's defending champion, I thought he was really on here. And yeah, like I say, you look at the frame scores and you couldn't possibly say he's played badly, but it was a slightly odd performance with unexpected misses in there. And that's when we haven't mentioned it yet. The pockets were playing pretty generously. I think until the semi-finals. I don't know if they reclothed it. I'm not sure. I think they probably did. But before the semi-finals, it was pretty, um, yeah, generous, pretty good scoring tables, let's say. And then they got a bit better, I would say, from the semi-finals and the final. And that shows how well those guys by that point were playing because there was still a lot of good breaks in the semis and the final. But it wasn't so much where, in the Chinese events, uh, it's almost like a different game at times because you can't really put a ball safe because if it's on the cushion, you can still just sort of whack it in at a decent pace a lot of the time, and it spoils it a bit, and it just changes the tactics of the game. Um, but yeah, that was not the case so much in the semis and the finals. So that was a bit better, but yeah, can't remember what the point was. Yeah, Judd. Yeah, it was just an odd performance. Looks good on paper, but it was a bit underwhelming. It was strange.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really see it at all, but I saw bits and pieces. And it's a funny thing to win. You've got 4 frames in a sort of in a frame in a match that lasted sort of 10 frames, and out of those 4, you won 3 with centuries. It's like, blimey, that's incredible form. But you're right, you can still not. That's the nature of the sport. You can still have you can make 3 centuries and yet still look odder than I've seen plenty of matches like that. So you put me in the picture there, certainly. There's 2 things, actually. I didn't know people said that to you about Cohen. There's 2 things I didn't quite have the energy to pursue this week. I thought it's a bit early in the season. People know that I've got a bit of a bugbear about these things anyway, so I didn't really say. So I'll do it on my pod instead. No, I mean, I'll say it briefly that I mean, that just fits in with Cohen not getting credit for me, which is a niggling thing that I always think people don't have quite faith in him. They seem to have in other players. I don't know why. And the other thing is the pockets. I didn't go too big on it. I did make one joke on social media, Phil, which I got a bit wrong. As I said, I would have made 16 or 17 on these tables. Should have gone 17 or 18. The way I'm quite a maths person underneath all my love of words. And I thought, 16, that could be 4 balls. I want to make it at least 5 balls. I've got 6, of course, and I texted you famously with that 21. I'd have fancied at least a 5-ball job on those tables. They were playing quite generously, actually. They were. I see them play more generously in Chinese tournaments lately. But as you say, it seemed to be a bit of a different ball game, new cloth, I'm sure, later on in the tournament. So, but listen, loads more to reflect on. In fact, we'll do that in a moment's time. Let's give a podcast check. We're coming down to about half an hour now, and say you are listening here to Talking Snooker with Phil Haigh and Nick Metcalf. We're reflecting here on Talking Snooker on the Shanghai Masters, which has been won by Kyren Wilson, and just mention those conditions which may have been quite generous early on, but sort of changed a bit. And maybe those pockets were a little bit on the tighter side towards the end. But one thing that I thought consistently was pretty good were the crowds, Phil. Obviously not there, but from a distance, always seemed pretty good. You know, very loud. I mean, that 147 from Zhang, the roars, I love the roars like that. There seems to be a particular type of roar from Chinese crowds. And
Yeah.
shout out to those that organised the Women's World Championship. There's been a couple of cracking ones at the women's later, the biggest event in the women's game lately, but you get those as well. And it's like, wow, it's spectacular. I mean, you got it at Hong Kong, but that one, those crowds were absolutely crazy. Sort of towards the tail end of when the pandemic was sort of easing off a bit, you know, when Marco Fu got that maximum. That's obvious, so the crowd was massive. But I loved the roars that week, and I loved them again here. There's a particular sort of sound to it, I think, even on television, and really enthusiastic. A lot of the bit of the phone sing, a lot of telling off from the referee. Someone really got telling off, didn't they? In the final, I think I was reading, didn't see it, but
I saw
anyway,
that. It was crazy. I think he was chatting. I couldn't really. It was hard to tell because obviously they were talking the local language. But yeah, when the referee is really sternly, you can tell it's a real ticking off, sort of like naughty schoolboys who were getting sternly told off by the teacher. But yeah, no, it was hard to say what was happening. But yeah, there were one or two problems in the Kyren Zhao match again. This happens a lot. There was the scoreboard failure. They had to go off for a bit.
oh yeah.
It's amazing how often that happens, really, isn't it? It shouldn't be that difficult to sort of keep going. And the ref said to Kyren, you could hear this. The ref was talking to Kyren saying, "Oh, we'll just carry on. We know what the score is." And Kyren said, "Well, but the fans don't. Like, that's not a great experience for them." And then they went off because of that. Well, that was good from Kyren because they
Oh
could have
yeah.
carried on playing, but no one other than them, the ref and the players would have known what the score is. So I thought that was a nice gesture from Kyren. Actually, he was thinking about the bigger picture.
I didn't see that bit. Yeah, that's good, that isn't it? Yeah, he's quite alert like that. Remember that great time? Was it the Mark Allen final, the Masters, when someone was chucked out and he's like, "Oh, let them in." I think I was there that
Yeah, yeah,
day. Yeah, he's quite a fan person. That guy, actually, Kyron. Quite a lot. I don't just mean the old. I know some people didn't like that German thing. I quite liked him coming on and giving it the big, all that. But he's quite into fans. It's not a new thing as well. People sort of say, oh, I know there's this thing last season. Kyron changed his personality a bit. I didn't think he did. I thought he tried to enhance things by trying a few new things. I thought he was exactly the same bloke he's always been. But he's always been quite into sort of fans, and he's a big one for sort of saying, thanks for everyone for coming out here. Thanks to you. I've even heard him say a few times, thanks for you coming here, paying your money, hard earned money. And he's quite into that sort of thing. And to the extent that I think it hurt everyone what happened in COVID, but it really hurt him. Obviously, he got to the world final, but others maybe have sort of maybe let it go a bit more. But I know he had a fierce
mm.
determination to get there with the proper crowds there, and he has got that sort of link with the fans that I kind of like. And I just tied him, and they've been a really good guy, isn't it? Generally, which I think we'd all say he is. And well, enjoyed all the commentary. I mentioned Dominic earlier. Gave me the chance to recount that story of him singing "White Christmas" in York. I mean, he is uh, a huge character, isn't he? He's an absolute. We have lots of one-offs in snooker, really. It lends itself a bit to eccentricity. Eccentric can be a bit of a coded word sometimes. Not always doesn't always mean great, but in Dominic's case, I think it does mean great. He's a really fascinating kind of individual. Huge life outside snooker, which I love as well. And just, you mentioned off air, wide-eyed. He has that great excitement about everything. He has that great sort of precision about talking. And he's an absolute sort of maverick, really. So I really enjoyed listening to him. I know, sort of, judging by the responses, many others agreed, Phil.
Yeah, definitely. It was almost. just limiting him to playing snooker matches on TV was a bit of a waste almost. Like getting to hear him now and like see him on things is a much better use of his time. Yeah, yeah, what a character. I mean, people say that about a lot of people, but Dominic Dale is bang right. So he's a great commentator. And we're blessed with a lot of good commentators in the game, but the more of him, the better. It's great.
And what did you make of it overall? I mean, I would say it's a hard thing to gauge, isn't it? To feel something. I was thinking this feels like a big event. I was thinking, what does that mean? You can't sort of weigh it. I mean, you can sort of say, well, there are factors that make it that. The crowds, all the best players are there. They always seem to play well when they're there, or nearly always. Great scoring. So I suppose all those together is enough. But there's just a feeling about it. It's just like, I'm going to use that word I maybe used for quite a while, gravitas on here, but it has got that, and it's got that in abundance. And amid the whole thing, we've got the fourth major coming up, but a bit amid the whole thing about what could and couldn't be a major, this has got that sort of major, big time feel about it. That's for sure, isn't it? I mean, it gives the season real oomph, if I can use that word, oomph, early on in the campaign to get this one under the belt and for it to be so big. I mean, particularly good for Kyren to win it, but for everyone, I think it's really given us all, as if we needed it, a real boost. The season is now underway. There's no sort of it's just starting a bit and getting going. Now we're properly underway, Phil, and feeling good about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, Kyron described it as the biggest Chinese tournament now when he won it, which the champion may well be prone to say, but that's probably right, isn't it? Now the China Open's gone,
Yeah,
and
probably.
the other ones sort of they don't blend together, but it's hard to pick which one's the bigger one out of the other tournaments. This one stands out because it is different from those ranking events. So yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's like it's the Chinese Masters, isn't it? And it lives up to that. I mean, it's the only thing from afar is what we don't get, what we get with the big tournaments over here with like the studio coverage, and we
Mm.
get the proper sort of build up to games and stuff where you're watching it as it's covered over here. It's hard to sort of quite get the gravitas, as you say, of sessions and stuff. They all just sort of land and you watch the game and that's it. So that's what we miss out to sort of gauge the size of events over there from here. But that doesn't take away from it, from what's going on over there. Yeah, it's clearly a superb tournament. Everyone's desperate to get in it. Um, and yeah, no, as you say, it's not the curtain raiser. The curtain's sort of been tweaked by qualifiers and Championship League, but this is the full curtain being drawn back on the season, I suppose.
Yeah, I reckon Ali probably owes Mark Allen more than a pint or two of Guinness. Probably a whole night of Guinness, getting
It was
himself in
vodka,
that.
vodka, he said, apparently.
Oh,
He
vodka,
owes him a
no.
vodka.
Vodka, brilliant. I like the idea of people owing vodkas, yeah. Um, Well, Phil, we should say well done again to Kyren Wilson and well done to everybody who staged that very prestigious tournament in Shanghai and then move on, shall we? And this is such a busy time of the season already. We haven't always said that in summer, as we were saying with Dave and our summertime special, which maybe we should have a word about later. Summer not traditionally necessarily thought of as a snooker time, but you have to now. The fourth major in Saudi Arabia gets underway on Friday. It's in Jeddah this year. Full details of the matches to come on snooker.org and the official WST website. But obviously, there's one meeting on the first day that we have to pick out here. But I'm really worried. I think, how are these two going to know each other's game? Ken Doherty and Jimmy White. They'll be bloody guessing. They'll be guessing. They won't know each other's game or what to expect at all. Their first meeting, Phil, was 34 years ago. So it's quite extraordinary, these two. Many other players, I know we said it before, but it's worth saying again, many other players have long since packed it up. Certainly at Jimmy's age, and even a bit, but some of them by Ken's age, they say, I've had enough, and a lot of them, we talk about Dominic, I mean, he had a few health things, but, you know, I spoke to him a couple of times last season. He was absolutely no doubt. And I think he's still the same. I'm delighted to give up. McManus wasn't that far removed from that, and maybe three of Joe Perry, maybe a little bit like that. And who knows? Maybe others, plenty of others as well. But these two keep going on and on. It's a great story. So yeah, maybe a word from you about that. Ken against Jimmy. I mean, I know people will sometimes say, and I get that, stop focus on the old days. But when these two old war horses are still going, it's talk about defying the years, eh?
Yeah, yeah. And there was Ken posted a clip of him knocking in a 147 in an exhibition somewhere. I can't remember what it was, but it's a lovely clip because he's sort of bantering with the crowd as he does it. Still delighting the fans up and down the country. And yeah, that's great. I mean, I suppose that's the point. If you're going to give these invitational wildcards, you may as well make the most of them. So that game better be on telly because what's the point of them being on tour if not? We got to you got to cash in on Ken Doherty versus Jimmy White if it's going to be there. And yeah, I'm sure they'll play some good stuff. They're still very capable. You know, Jimmy's win against Santa McGill already this season was very impressive. Um, Ken had some good wins last season as well. Like he's still in there. How much it's obviously nowhere near as consistent as it used to be, but they're still very, very good players on their day. And yeah, there's a handful of first round matches that I picked out there. Chang Bing Yu against Marco Fu
Mm.
was one that stood out. Back on tour, Chang and Fu been playing very well. Dylan Emery against Florian Nuzler looked good, and maybe not the most glamorous, but Ian Burns versus David Grace was one I thought
I
was
saw
one.
that.
It's probably a bit. It seems a bit better than a round of 144, doesn't it? They're both excellent players on their day. So yeah, it's probably not going to attract too many headlines, but just thought the good, solid players there.
Yeah, I saw that one funny enough as well. Well, Liam Pullen is playing the Saudi wildcard Ahmad Asiri, Phil, on Friday, day one of the tournament. And it gives us a chance to say that as part of our preview of the tournament, we've spoken to Liam Pullen, haven't we, at length? And we don't normally put episodes in the bank and in the can, but I'm heading away for a wee while, so we've done that, and he's had loads to say about the tournament to come, about his experience in Saudi last year, and generally about his short time in the game. Really, he's still just only turned 20, Liam, and hopefully I'm sure what it will be, which is a very long future for him. And he's made one big change, hasn't he? One very significant snooker change lately, and we won't tell you about that now. We'll hold this in suspense for you and send that episode out in a few days. So that's Liam Pullen coming up here very soon on Talking Snooker. Yeah, a couple more I picked out. Mikhail Sabarzik, this 14-year-old. He's got Ryan Davis. We've got Umut Dikme, who we mentioned a few times on here, actually. Often in relation to sort of Q school events, but Mick Nutrawat's got Umut Dikme, and then Krejci Gerbuksani's got Rhian Evans. So lots of interesting about. I mean, it's kind of I don't know, increments is the right word to use. It's certainly in sort of stages, isn't it? And bigger players come in each day, don't they? So Friday we'll see some of the players further down the rankings that are, some of those players higher up coming in Saturday, again Sunday, Monday, on and on. So that's how it'll work, and it's obviously going to be a big tournament, isn't it? On television, lots of people will no doubt tune in, and it's, as I say, such a big time of the season. We've still got Wuhan to come, this month in August. So, and the money, you can't get away from that. I mean, if Judd Trump wins it again, then you might as well just say that's it for the world number one for 5 years. It's just that, he obviously had that, win last year, beating Mark Williams in that very exciting final. So, I mean, I know I've heard you say it before a number of times, and you're right. What we perhaps didn't get last time was someone having that sort of potential career changing amount of money, which again, I sort of expect not to happen again, really. The odds are that it'll be those big heavyweight stars of the game. They'll be so desperate to do it, they'll get to the latter stages. But maybe what we're lacking is a really big run from one of those, early players, if you like, that come in the early days. And then it's like, wow, that would make such a difference to them, mate. That would be something really nice, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think Jimmy Robertson got to the quarters last year,
Mm.
which is like 50 grand. So it's rare that 50 grand for a quarter final. So that that sort of turned his season around. But yeah, to really get to the final, win it for a shock run would be incredible. And it's not out of the question. I mean, I know what you mean. You would obviously back the big players as you always do in any tournament, but it's best of 11 until up till the semis, which is a relatively short race, and it only gets to best of 19 in the final. So one of these guys through the tiered draw get a bit of momentum going. It's not out of the question that someone could come through and cause a shock. We saw it at the World Championship with Jack Jones, didn't we? That would be remarkable. at the Worlds. Even we just seen it with Zhao Xintong, but feels like a different sort of situation. But yeah, and yeah, I think we said before we came on, there's no point really sort of going through the tiers because it's if he wins, he could play him, but we'll see. But the only one I thought of that because I was looking at the round three ones to play the top 16 when they get through. Potentially, if Luca Brissell wins his, I think he's got Ronnie O'Sullivan in the last 32, which would be
Oh.
one to watch. But yeah, no, it's gonna be fascinating. It's in a new venue, obviously. It's in Jeddah. No idea what that's going to be like. But obviously, the venue last year in Riyadh got rave reviews from the players
Mm.
because they were very well looked after. So sure that'll be the same in Jeddah. Um, but yeah, be interested to see if the crowds are any different. Obviously, they were pretty terrible for most of it last time, so hope for more people in watching the games. But we'll see. We'll watch on with interest.
Well, I've just had the pool there, haven't they? I saw little bits of that, and so it's yeah, you're right. It's a departure from where they were in Jeddah. I mean, it's an event that we know as has caused controversy, but I tell you what, it's a hell of an undertaking. You know, you can't deny one thing in the history of the game, really, to get this many players all going to one place to play a tournament. That is quite an undertaking, really, and it'll all be underway on Friday, and we'll be back soon. We'll bring you Liam Pullen, won't we, in a few days, and then we'll come back to review that tournament. We're on the clock, done all right, I think, about 45 minutes. We should really um, shoot off, but just to say a couple of things from me. I've returned on Radio Snooker with Points of View. Never thought I'd present that, Phil. Catching up with your correspondence. I'm delighted to say that I will return as well soon with a new series of columns. I want to say that for Sporting Life. I really look forward to that. And well, I feel a bit rude because it's you that gave me this news, but you can say a bit more about it. As you rightly reminded, seniors tournament, British Open at Christmas in Derby, which has got an awful lot. Mention it in the summertime special. Awful lot of history in the game, so we look forward to that. Bit of festive viewing, the old mince pies, and some stars from yesteryear on the old Gogglebox film.
Yeah, yeah, I think you should do really well. They've got some great figures, haven't they, on the seniors at that time of year? So it's at the new, I think it's a brand new venue, isn't it? The Valent Live in Derby,
Mm.
from Boxing Day to the 28th. The seniors British Open, and they've announced Jimmy White, Ken Doherty, Alfie Burden, Joe Perry, Dominic Dale, and for the first time Matthew Stevens, who I was lucky enough to chat to on this announcement, which was a lot of fun. It's a piece on Metro if you want to dig that out. Very engaging. And two more players still yet to be announced, who, with the change of the rules, can be any player over 40, whatever ranking they are. So, um, you know, that could be any number of players, as you know. We'll wait and see. But yeah, no, it looks good. Um, and I expect, yeah, on Channel Five, they'll do really well out of it. And they announced that the next World Seniors will be on Channel Five as well. So, with the move on the World Snooker Tour to Channel Five as well, they're really going heavy on snooker. So, yeah, good. Well, we'll wait and see. Not watch huge amount of Channel Five snooker just yet. But uh, it's nice to see that they're investing heavily in it.
They're going massive on sport. I mean, I don't know if any of you are crossover fans of NFL. Huge news coming through about what that channel is going to be showing in that sport coming up. So Channel 5, they're making some big encroachment into sports rights. I can't remember if the last on air since Matthew Stevens or not now, whether we've spoken on here about it, but he is some interesting person, isn't he, in
Mm.
snooker? He must have been lovely to talk to, I'm sure. I know it was moving to hit, to read it because I remembered about how sad it was for him to lose his father when he did, losing Paul Hunter, and just forget how good he was, And again, he's one of those. And what came through a little bit was, yeah, I, I could have done more. Obviously, those world finals are big, but hey, I've still done well. I've still had a
Yeah.
good career, and he's still a sort of force to a lesser extent. He can start to do some damage now.
Yeah, that's the impression I took from him because that's the first I've spoken to Matthew a bit at tournaments, but that was the first time I sort of chatted at length on the phone. And you speak to some people at that stage of their career, and they are very much talking in the past, and they're just like, I'm just sort of plugging away now. But he was very much like, well, I'm not done yet. Like he very much was sounding like he thinks he can win titles, and I think it's more sort of how many hours he puts on the practice table because he basically suggested he doesn't do very much, and then when he does do more at the World Championship, but he always seems to do well at those qualifiers. He often gets through. I think he got beat by Wu Yizer in a decider, didn't he, in the last qualifier this year? And I think he said that was after just ahead of them. He puts in a good week of practice. So even when he's really putting in a lot, there's still not loads. But I think if he could put in more, he still very much is a good player. He looked great at the Championship League. He's not lost a game yet this season with the qualifiers in the Championship League. So certainly is a force. And it'll be interesting to see how he gets on the seniors because, that's not a given. I think when people saw Dale and Perry sign up for that, you think, oh, they'll stroll through that, especially someone like Joe Perry. But no, it's not as easy as it looks. But yeah, no, it was really nice to speak to Matthew. So have a read of that if you can dig it out.
Indeed. Well, loads of big stuff happening in sport, Phil. We've got to say congratulations to England, 1 Euro 2025. I mean, you'd be hard pushed to stay there with the best team in the tournament, wouldn't you? But if you've got stickability and a strong mentality, you can win these events, even if you're not necessarily performing brilliantly throughout them. Also, the British and Irish Lions have beaten Australia in 2-1 in their Test series down under. And what about England-India, Phil? A thriller all the way. And I know you think, as millions of people do think in this country, an awful lot about Joe Root and his latest century really came with something very poignant, didn't it? Putting that headband on as a tribute to Graham Thorpe, who was a brilliant, brilliant batsman for England, the late Graham Thorpe back in the day. And I mean, we're preaching to the converted, me and you, and I'm sure many of our listeners loving Test cricket. This has been a treat of a series, isn't it?
Oh, it's been amazing, yeah. Yeah, start to finish, and it didn't look like it was going to finish excitingly, but it certainly is now. It's a bit of a shame they're going to have to come back tomorrow morning and do it, but yeah, amazing, and all for incredible different reasons. Like this match has been so different from all the others. But yeah, Joe Root, what a hero! I think I can finally admit that he's the more successful of the two of us to come from our primary school because we were at the same junior school, me and Joe Root. Probably not mentioned that on here before. But yeah, what a player, what a guy.
You met, you mentioned bumping into him in a pub and being a bit awestruck. Was that the same thing?
No,
Well,
no,
not
no.
not,
But
not the same
I didn't
thing,
know him. I didn't know him
but
at school. He's a few years below me, but yeah, we were at the same primary school.
sorry, it was the pub was something separate. But yeah, no, I didn't know you
Mm.
went to the same pub. You've also done very, very well, though, Phil. That's got to
Mm.
be that you've got. It seems you've done brilliant. You're on a very successful podcast for one thing. Now we're going to go, aren't we? But listen, fourth major on the way, and we've got to say two thanks. Thanks to Dave Hendon for being great company on the summertime special. He really was chuckling away for days. I was about some various ludicrous things on there. Roger de Courcy and Nookie Bear among them. And thanks to Liam Pullen. And you'll know why we're saying thanks to Liam Pullen very soon, because he was great value. Outrageously confident young man for the age of 20, don't you think? And wasn't he good on there? Quick word about that to plug it, and then we'll go.
Yeah, no, that was superb. Yeah, it's very unusual for us to do this, but we recorded that the other day, and that will go out a few days after this one. But yeah, no, great to talk to Liam. Really interesting career already, so young. But you'll hear all about that soon. And then it's Saudi. So yeah, busy, busy time. And then it feels like it's then busy all the way through to Christmas. So strap in.
I salute you and say we've done under an hour. That's pretty good. And I know I kept you a little bit tonight, so all the best, sir. And have a great week. And then, of course, Saudi coming soon. Cheers to you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. And thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed Shanghai and yeah, plenty to look forward to in the weeks to come. So keep listening. Thanks for being here.
Indeed, and well done again to Kyren Wilson and everybody that put on that very successful tournament in Shanghai. Keep your thoughts coming, talking snooker at yahoo.com or tweet us at talking snooker. For now, from your old friends, Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Cheerio.